Greetings. Thank you for joining us for the conversation about children and families. Today we're going to look at how understanding the young child can help parents and teachers and educators to create experiences and spaces where learning can take place and can be retained in a positive way for children, where they can gain the information, retain it through activities that are familiar by looking at where they are at. So we first want to ask the question to a child, what is your favorite hobby? So we're going to write that down as something to get to know the child. What is your favorite hobby? The next thing is taking that favorite hobby and seeing how you can look at it in a developmental way. So for example, if your hobby is art and painting, how are you developing that through the domain? So we have physical, intellectual, emotional, and social development. They're called the pies. The pies are the 4 developmental domains established by theory, by researchers, and they look at these 4 domains in the development of children, all right? And it can even be used to support adult learning as well. So when we look at the topic, in the middle of the pies, we have the topic, and then we have the slices. So how are you physically engaging with this topic? So for example, if your hobby is basketball, for example, and you like to play basketball, that's your favorite thing ever to do. How can we use the pies to create and stimulate the learning process? So what do? Physically, how are you engaging in basketball? You're moving your body, right? You're eating certain foods to help you to become strong. So that's all about your physicality, your physical development. When we then look at the I for intellectual development, we're looking at the mind. We're looking at cognitive awareness. We're looking at thinking. How are you thinking about this topic of basketball? Are you reading any information about it? Are you writing any information about it? Are you engaging in a puzzle that is a picture of a basketball? Are you engaging in math problems that evolves around basketball? Okay, there were 10 basketballs, and they each cost a certain amount of money. How much money do you need to pay for 10? So those are intellectual development activities that you can do around that topic. Now we look at the E for emotional development. Now some researchers have combined emotional and social together. Emotional social learning, ESL. What I like to do is separate them and intentionally create learning around each of these slices. So for example, with emotional development, how do you feel about basketball? How does it make you feel? How are you emotionally regulating yourself when you lose a game or when you don't achieve your fullness? How do you deal with that? How do you talk about your feelings around basketball? So that's when we look at the E for emotional. Now, when we're looking at the S for social development, we're looking at specific interactions you're having at home, at school, in the community. Social interaction, social relationships around basketball. Does your friend support your passion of basketball? Does your parents, does your community, do you have a basketball court within your community that you can engage in basketball? So how are you socializing with basketball? Do you attend basketball games? Do you have basketball gatherings and parties around basketball? Do you exchange gifts during the holidays that's focused on basketball? So how are you engaging socially with basketball? Are you attending discussions about basketball? Are you having group team meetings, etc.? That's social development. So taking the pies and looking at the development of children based on their passion, based on their likes, we can then begin to peel back off of the surface of that child what's inside of that child. Because what's inside of that child is what's needed to succeed. What's inside of that child is what's needed to be progressive. So we're looking at non-external prizes, but a internal satisfaction that the child has with the experience they're having based on what they like. So each child in the class will be different in their outcomes in terms of what they like and what they don't like. Someone may like basketball, someone may like football. So based on the differences of those likes, we can use that to have a unified discussion and a unified format of how we are going to be presenting our topic, whatever that may be. So when it comes to junior achievement, when it comes to anything, how are you developing? What does your pies look like? Are you physical? Do you walk every day? Are you reading something? Are you doing a puzzle? Are you doing Sudoku? How are you stimulating your mind? How are you stimulating your emotional part of yourself? Are you letting out your cries, or are you keeping them bottled up? Are you talking to a therapist? Are you talking to someone else other than the people close to you? How are you regulating your emotions and learning how to do so? So that involves communication with someone who is trained. The other part of the pies is that social part. How are you interacting with others? Are you using good manner words? Are you being respectful of others in that social space? So when we look at the pies in development, we have to look at the full roundedness of the child based on what is at the center of that pie, and that is their interests. What do they like? In order for you to teach someone something, they have to bring in their background schema, something that they already know, something that they may have already heard or may have already experienced that they can bring to the new learning. That makes the learning expand itself. So you're building on top of the learning. So when you get to higher grades, you're able to take this background schema and use it as a template for your learning. Looking at approaching a topic using pies. So that's what we're talking about, and that's how we're looking at it. Thanks for listening.